I'm Jonathan Nevill, and the reason I'm making this video, as I've got older, I've realised that there are some things which it would have been very useful for me to know before I got into serious relationships. So I'm talking to you as if I was talking to myself when I was 18 years old. Okay, now I'm going to talk about what I think you need to think about before you get into a serious relationship, a serious long-term relationship. And then I'm going to talk about what happens and how to manage it when things don't last, when a serious relationship breaks up. When you start thinking about settling down with somebody, there's lots of things that you should think about. Is the person a healthy and happy person? Look at his family. Are they healthy, happy, supportive people? Now, I'm going to say that there are 6 things in particular that you need to think about. One is shared values, and one is shared interest. 2 is shared interest. So those 2 things are very important because shared interests and shared values are sort of the glue that keeps you together as a couple, as a team. Any long-term partnership is a team. Now the third thing is you need to have matching senses of humour. In other words, I need to understand my partner's sense of humour and she needs to understand me. And a sense of humour is not just a key to intimacy, but it is like a lubricant that helps smooth things over when things go wrong. And in any long-term relationship, things go wrong. So that's the first thing. The first thing, the second thing, and the third thing. Shared interests, shared values, and a matching sense of humour. Now I'm going to say that you need to look for a good heart. Now, a good heart to me is one of the most important things you need in a long-term relationship. Now, how to judge that? I'm going to make the transcript available for this talk and it's got more detail in. But the short answer is you should pay attention to how your prospective partner talks about other people who he's been close to, people like his family, like ex-girlfriends or lovers. Now, I think the best idea is that if you can't say something nice about somebody, then don't say anything at all. If you have to talk about somebody who's been very close, then you need to be very aware of your part in that relationship. Particularly, let's say, an ex-partner. I think the idea of bad-mouthing an ex-partner is totally unacceptable, and I do mean totally. You can explain things, but to criticise an ex-partner, remembering that you got into this relationship entirely voluntary, you need to take your share of the responsibility if things have gone wrong, and you need to ask yourself, do I really need to criticise him or her? And in my view, the answer is no. So how do you judge a good heart? Then think about the way your friend is treating other people and talking about other people. Okay, so that's 1, 2, 3, and 4. 5 is self-confidence. Now, at first glance, you might say, well, look, I don't really see that my partner should necessarily need high self-confidence. Over the years, I've watched different friends, and I believe self-confidence is absolutely crucial. The you need to get somebody who is happy in the person he is. If he's comfortable with who he is, where he's come from, where he's going, he will be able to support you. He will be able to give you the love you need. There is a way of judging confidence. If your prospective partner says anything which hints at jealousy, that is a real red flag. Another thing is if your friend talks a lot about himself or herself, what he's done, all his achievements, and even worse, what he's going to do but never actually gets around to doing. This is another major red flag. And my advice is walk away. Don't try and fix things. You don't have to explain yourself. You need to walk away. Okay, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. The sixth thing I'm going to mention is leadership. A long-term partnership is a team, and a team can have mutual leadership where both of you play an even role. Excuse me. Or it can have a definite leader, perhaps in certain aspects of the team. But leadership is something you need to talk about before you start thinking about settling down in a long-term relationship. And I'm not saying having a leader and a follower is good or bad. What I'm saying is that you need to talk about it. It's really critical. The last thing I'll say, and this doesn't come into the group of 6, I'm just adding this. Don't feel that you need a partner who will satisfy all your human needs. You can't get a perfect partner. You can't get one person who will satisfy all your needs. You need to put energy into maintaining a small circle of close friends, and a wider circle of more distant friends and acquaintances beyond that. You need to put energy in. These people will be really important in your life. Okay, so that's the end of part 1. That's what I had to say about things to think about before you go into a long-term relationship. Well, part 1 was about things you need to think about before you get into a relationship, but part 2 is what happens when things go wrong. And as everyone knows, just look around you, things do go wrong. Relationships mature, and sometimes we split up. Relationships split up. So what do you do? Now, first of all, if this relationship you've been in, if it has been based on true love, then what I'm telling you is that the best way of getting through the hurt and pain of a broken relationship is to maintain that love. Remember what you loved in your partner, because he or she is probably still very similar to the person you fell in love with and you've loved all these years. Things have gone wrong. Maybe she wants to leave. Maybe you're on the other side of the fence. But you've got to maintain that love. And you can do it. You've got to have confidence in yourself. The key really is just to set yourself a high ideal and live up to it. I'm going to use an example. I had a friend called Christine. She and I had known each other for many years, and we'd been close for the last few years. I had asked her to move in with me, but she had declined. Now, at that time, what I didn't know was that she was looking for another long-term partner on the internet, on a relationship site. Now, when she did tell me, she told me, I found somebody, his name is Daniel, he's really great, and I'm ending the relationship with you. Okay. So she was pretty close to me. I valued her a great deal. So it was upsetting to lose a person like this who had been so special to me. Anyhow, when I met Daniel, he was terrific. I couldn't help thinking, she is so lucky to have found this guy. He had a good heart, he was smart and funny, an amazingly lovable human being. Now, as it turned out, Daniel and I became close friends. So close that I asked him to sail with me in the South Pacific. I spent months or years in a yacht in the South Pacific. And Daniel came out and we had great times together, wonderful adventures. Now, to this day, Daniel is one of the most important people in my life. And I would have lost that very important friendship if I'd buried myself in self-pity and I'd said, look, I don't want to have anything more to do with you. I'll just go and cry. That is not the way forward. And that way would have been much harder in every way, much harder emotionally, much more difficult from a time point of view than the way that I chose, which was to maintain my love as much as I could with my ex-partner and look with fresh eyes on the person she had chosen. Now, they're still together, they're still married, they're still my best friends, and that is the way that you should think about going if you're confronted with that situation. Okay, I say more about this in the transcript, so download it if you want to. Now I'm going to say, okay, what happens if a long-term relationship is not based on true love? Now, a person can hide a personality disorder or a serious mental condition. Many times it is not obvious when you first meet them. And I consider myself a reasonable judge of human nature, but I've been surprised myself to see strange behaviour in a person that I've known for more than a year. Anyhow, I'll say it again, a personality deficit or a mental disorder can be totally disguised. You may not see this until you're deep into the relationship. Now, how would it manifest itself? Control is an issue. A person who you're in a deep relationship with may gradually try and exert more and more control over you. This is a huge red flag. Now, jealousy, again, as I said earlier, often stemming from self-confidence. But this is a huge red flag. Another red flag is when your partner, who you think loves you, criticises you in a destructive way. Now, criticism in a constructive way is good. Criticism from a loving friend is one of the best things you can ever receive. But criticism which is designed to push you down, to pull you into sadness and despair, that is not good criticism. That is something that you need to get out of. What I'm saying is, if you see these signs deep in the relationship, don't try and fix them. I do not subscribe to the idea that a long-term partnership is somehow sanctified, a union sanctified by God, and you should do everything you can to maintain that relationship. That is not a good idea. One of my friends, who's a GP, a doctor, said to me, the best way of looking at a relationship, particularly a failed relationship, is as a milestone or reference point in your life. Through every relationship you have, you learn more about who you are, about what you have to give other people, about your own needs. But look at it that way. Don't look at it as something that you've got to save. Look at it as a reference point. You can go on, you can learn from that. You can do better in your next choice and better in your next relationship. So let it go as smoothly and quickly and generously as you can, but let it go fast. Obviously, if there are kids or property involved, you've got to work through these things. But do it quickly and do it with generosity. But get out, and get out quickly. Well, that's it. So I've talked about what you need to think about. I've mentioned 6 things that you need to think very carefully about before you get into a deep relationship. Now, in terms of part 2, where I talk about splitting up with a partner, you're going to end up in one of 2 situations. You may be splitting up from a relationship which has been based on true love. And if that's the case, you need to maintain that love during the split up. It seems like it's a silly thing for me to say that, but believe me, it is the best way. You know, I've had the experience of being an honoured guest at an ex-partner's funeral, an honoured guest at another ex-partner's wedding. It is the best way. On the other hand, if there is a serious personality disorder or mental deficit there, you need to get out as quickly and cleanly as you can. Well, thanks for listening. There won't be a sequel. This is the only YouTube I'll ever make. And again, the script should be available on onlyoneplanet.com. Thanks for listening.